Hello, everyone. Welcome to another edition of In the Metal. And wow, this is one of the difference. It's been a heck of a weekend in Ireland here for not only for me, but for a selection of some of the watchmakers that I look up to most. And people who they actually transcend a generation of independent watchmaking from uh, a watchmaker who was working in the 1970s, 80s, 90s, a man who's widely regarded as one of the godfathers of independent watchmaking, to young talent from Denmark. And uh, they all did me this amazing honor of joining me in Ireland in the ancient city of Waterford for what it looks like being the inaugural International Festival of Time, which took place in the most incredible setting in the city of Waterford. As I say, it's the oldest city in Ireland. It is it is home of a complex of five incredible museums called Waterford Treasures, and we had the great pleasure of welcoming the cream of independent watchmaking to Waterford for a weekend. And what a weekend it was. So we're going to have a little talk about the weekend and kind of look back on it as a kind of a postcard, as a snapshot of the weekend. Not getting too technical, not going to look too in depth at the watches, but just a little bit of share a few stories about what was an incredible weekend. And whenever I say we, I've got my great friend Pietro Tomajer, who is the chief man at the limited edition.co.uk in the UK, which has, without doubt, the widest portfolio of independent marks and independent watchmakers anywhere in the world. So, Pietro, how the hell are you doing?
Hey Johnny, so good to see you, and so good to see you now. A little bit relieved and relaxed, and it feels a bit like the quiet after the storm. Yeah, I wouldn't say before the storm, the quiet after the storm. But what an achievement, Johnny! What you have completed and fulfilled in so many ways is something that is will be worth remembering. The Festival of Time was a great success from an outsider perspective, because I have to say I relaxed during the event. I just took the best of it, and for once I've been a spectator, and I admit it was great to be there, and it was great to be part of it.
It's been an incredible weekend. I really can't put it into words, folks, but well, I should do. That's why I'm talking to you now, is to try and put it into words. So we'll work on that. But it was an absolutely incredible experience. For a start, I'm going to go back, Pietro, and just let people know how it came to be. Uh, we could talk about the historical connection in a few minutes, which you are aware of yourself. But last year, in June time, uh, I we got notified that there was a new uh, something to see, a new spectacle to see in Ireland that had a very close connection to what we have been working on for the last 15, 16, 17 years. The Museum of Time, the Irish Museum of Time, opened in Waterford City. And immediately we had to get down and see it. Now it's a 300-kilometer trek from where I live in County Down, right down the east coast of Ireland to Waterford City. But we made the journey during lockdown. Ireland was closed for business when we went down, and the museum very graciously entertained us, allowed us to come and visit the Museum of Time, and we had a wonderful time. We were blown away by the whole location, because the Museum of Time was only one of five incredible museums that comprise a facility which is called Waterford Treasures.
There's a
And for
nice article on the Watch Press that you put together after that first experience, isn't there? That actually
we
worked
did.
as a prologue to what was going to happen next. No?
Yeah, absolutely. But we didn't know, Pietro, that we went down to write an article so as we could say that there was something happening in Ireland that was of interest and of interest to us. Because famously, you know me, you've heard me at different shows whenever we're looking at a watch and handling it. I'm saying, like, people say I write about watches, but I actually write about pictures of watches. So that's the Irish conundrum. I wouldn't be anywhere else, but you don't get a lot of chance to see these amazing watches firsthand. So, so this museum was an absolute, an incredible development and something that we were very, very interested in. So, I said, myself and Sylvia, my wife, went down and spent a day around Waterford, the Museum of Time, and it was brilliant. When we finished, we were taken to one side by the director of the museums, a gentleman called Eamon McElherron, and who is another. He's like you, Pietro. He is a human dynamo. I don't know where he's got the energy from, but he had overseen the birth of these 5 museums. And when he heard what we did and how we were involved with watchmaking, etc., he asked, "Is there any chance you might be able to attract a few of these people to Ireland for a show?" Uh, yeah, without asking, I said, yeah, let's see what we can do. And so that's where it's began. Its roots began last year, June. By the time we had driven home from Waterford, I already had a name in my head. It was the Festival of Time. And so we started working on that. But of course, it's very difficult to plan for something like that, Pietro, when the country was closed for business. And it literally was. Ireland had the strictest lockdown restrictions of anywhere in Europe. So it was hard to plan. And however, that's how it came to be. Yes, it was a little bit tense in the build up to it, wondering would it all come together. Yes, we had a very short run in once actually the restrictions were confirmed to be lifted. And so I'd say about 6th of April was the first time I felt we're doing this. So
Yes.
so it happened.
It didn't feel like that. If you want my honest feedback, it didn't feel like that for those people like myself that just attended the event. It felt from the beginning as welcoming as enjoyable and relaxing as you would want it. The setting was absolutely amazing. For somebody like me that didn't know the setting, the comparison that we made with in a certain way with the Baselworld because of the contemporary shape of the main building that hosts the Museum of Time was apparent. But then when you consider that all of that is comprised into the what is called as the Viking Triangle, so a highly historical pre and medieval settlement of and group of buildings, it makes it for something really iconic straight away when you actually enter the historical area of Waterford. And then what was expecting you inside was also equally surprising because you made me walk down the staircase that was dating back to the 13th century to a world of where the historical thoughts and the historical connections that then relate to watchmaking were suggested, were introduced, were recommended to the visitor, and so straight away you enter into a world of of contemporary mixed to history, which was really very how can I say which was perfect really for any visitor.
It's really a breathtaking setting. Now, I don't have that area, that little section you're talking about there, Pietro, is called the Choristers' Hall. And yes, it dates back to the 13th century. I haven't included any images of that this year, but I might.
Well, we can't. You can't possibly unveil everything, can you? I mean, as I see it, this year was a little appetizer because I had a feeling. Of course, Johnny, we are called the imposters in another famous broadcast, but we are obviously insiders of this world of watchmaking. And I think we can tell where there is clear potential for growth. And definitely what you've put together felt like an appetizer to what can possibly be happening in the next years. But the reality is that to fully experience it, the best way would be to try to attend next year. And for those of your audience and our audience interested, we now know the logistics. We now know how to make it easy and pleasant, and everything can be sorted in a very good way.
Yeah, it is. It's well, I just want to pick you up on something there. You said, Joe, that I organised. I have to say, um, the people that were behind this. I'm going to. I want to just mention a few names, Pietro. I want to mention you for coming over for a start because it was wonderful to have you. It's nice when you're doing something. It's nice to see it going smoothly. But it's also nice when you have somebody who you know and respect can see that thing working instead of just calling on the phone, say, "Oh, it's going great" and all that. I really
You
appreciate
basically
you.
gave me a weekend off, Johnny, so I'll be forever, forever grateful.
Yeah, well, you do not take too many weekends off. That is for absolutely sure. But before I go on, I want to just thank a certain number of people. I want to thank Eamon McElherron. I want to thank Lord Mayor Joe Kelly, who made us so welcome in the city of Waterford and those amazing buildings. I want to thank Rosemary, Ryan, Cleona, Anya, John, who are the team that worked behind the scenes in the museum itself. And then, of course, you go across the street where everybody liked to go for their little refreshment at lunchtime to get a coffee or sandwich or uh, uh, some kind of refreshment. Ollie and the team at the Bishop's Palace Cafe, who also came around and worked the room every morning at 11:30 and did something that I have never seen before. And I know for a fact that a lot of the watchmakers have never seen before because usually whenever you go to a city like Geneva or to London or wherever these exhibitions tend to be held, they're usually quite impersonal, and the staff who are there are meant to be, seen and not heard. Well, nobody told the people of Ireland that, and you come over to Ireland, and they are going to throw their arms around you, and that's what happened. And the watchmakers could not believe that they were going to sit in a cafe and someone's coming over to them and said, "Hey, Vianney, how are you this morning?" Or, "Hey, Bernard," or, "Hello, Luna, Thomas, John, Stephen." It blew them away. They were not used to that kind of familiarity. And it put them at ease immediately. And it's something I was counting on, Pietro, if I messed up, that the city of Waterford would earn me a few goodwill points, So,
It has to
whereas
be
it
said.
might be a
Are we
dark,
allowed?
but the place is okay. So, but thankfully,
Yeah.
thankfully they even liked me, and that's nearly harder to believe, So, but
Ending up in a pub at night, mingling with the locals and having a drink with the contemporary watchmakers felt every night as a
oh,
natural ending of every
God,
single day.
who put that up?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that
and
was
right
that
in the
was it.
middle of that photograph, there's two other people I want to thank very much as well, because as well as all the watchmakers, and I'll come to them, we'll name them surely, but in the middle of that photograph, there are two girls who are very close to my heart. One is Sylvia, who is my wife, standing there beside Stephen McGonigal, who is, you just don't get him in front of the camera because he is amazing. And the other is the girl standing beside that, who is my daughter Katie, and she's very shy and retiring, and not that she's pretty introverted until you put a glass of Guinness in her hand. And
Oh, I wouldn't say that. Katie was a bundle of energy, and I can tell all the support that you got from Sylvie, who also knows the world of watchmaking very, very well,
yeah,
and is behind of obviously the incredible work that you've managed to put together. And I know that without that valid support, things could be very, very different. Just because you can't do everything on your own, Johnny, and I know the story very well. But
absolutely. I'm very
you
lucky indeed. I should also say that I am very, very fortunate with Sylvia, because there's plenty of wives out there would say, "Get you off your backside and go out and get a job,"
go
and
and get a
instead
job.
of,
Yeah,
doing this, working in this fantasy world. But she
yes.
has stood by me for the last 17 years since I started out with this crazy idea, which at no point in my family's history has there been anybody involved in watches until me. And so she has stood by me and supported me, and I love her, and I'm delighted to have her on my side. And so we make a good team, Pietro. And
Absolutely, and it added up to there was a family kind of feel to the whole thing. We had a few collectors coming, not many, of course, because this was the first edition, and it was like a test in so many ways. There was a clear and steady flow of people that visited, but in terms of collectors traveling from abroad, this is something that I know you want to get organized, for the future. But for those that managed to come, the family feel was from morning until dawn. At night, when we would go to the pub all together with the watchmakers, with your family, and during the day at the exhibition itself. Many of the watchmakers came with their wives, with their family as well in some cases. So there has been a really great family feel to it. They made everything really, really easy, and made somehow the incredible horological things that we have witnessed in that room, Johnny. How can I say? Not necessarily the only star of the show, but I think that was a great thing. So the show was not, how would you say, it was not, how can I say, too powerful to take. On the contrary, it was everything was easy. Everybody felt welcome, and you didn't feel any difficulty in accessing these human beings that were there exposing their incredible art.
well, I'm going to put it to you like this, because Sylvia and I have obviously talked about it at length, and I feel it dawned on me. A few things dawned on me as I was making my way back up the country again. But one of those was that, as much as this event being about watches, which is what we wanted to do, to introduce these incredible masterpieces to a new audience in Ireland, this event was about people. And there was a really unique touch to this thing that I have never experienced at another event. Now, you might say, okay, you organize it, you're going to say that. But we've been to events, Pietro, and yes, they are about people. You go out in the evening time and you break bread with people, or you have a glass of wine with people, or uh, whatever. But there was this kind of ambience in the room, that the room was not full of watch nerds. It was filling. It was the people who were there were people who had a curiosity about what we were bringing to Ireland, and so there was no big brand exercises. There was no PR circus or anything like that. This was bare bones. This was a watchmaker and his watches in a display case, and very, very approachable, very, very social
In a
event.
very clever way, I think, Johnny, there was that the Watchmakers Club event kind of feel to it in terms of
True.
accessibility to the watchmakers, which was very
Yeah.
clever and very, very suitable, because the environment and the venue was quite appalling. It's the power of the venue itself was there to eventually create a museum kind of feel to the exhibition that, in my opinion, didn't happen because you set it up like the Watchmakers Club event, which is a nice event in London that we hope will repeat again, where there is direct access to watchmakers, exactly like you did. And the Watchmaker Club event, normally it is in our galleries or reception rooms, or cool bars in London. So it's
Yeah.
more of a natural kind of how can I say, a connection that is created straight away. For you, it wasn't easy because the importance of the venue could have created a distance, between visitors and exhibitors, and that didn't happen at all. And I'm talking from a standpoint of somebody that has spent hours and hours in those rooms taking pictures of every single timepiece that was exhibited there.
Yeah. No, it's an absolutely fantastic location, and the it, it the way I look at it, Pietro, it's unique, but I think there's when you get something that's magic, you have to be very, very careful with it, because magic can
Yeah, and
disappear.
then we move on to the question that everybody had: what is gonna Johnny do next year? Because now stuff are getting serious, and everyone is kind of to preempt what's gonna happen next year. So, which direction you think you're going, Johnny?
We will have to talk about that. I do have a very clear idea in my head. Again, I'm one of these people who I analyze things, whether it's good or bad. If it's positive, I analyze why it's good. If it failed, if it's something that's wrong, I give that a lot of thought and try and find a cure or a workaround. I do have a pretty clear idea in my head. We need to arrange a lot of things, so we can't. There's no date arranged as yet, because we need to make sure that the schedule next year for the museum, because at the end of the day, the museum is public buildings, and so we need to make sure that we will get a weekend. When is the thing? So then what we do with it is, yeah, there will be. I actually envisage, Pietro, small changes, and because I'm very, very conscious of whenever you've got something that we've all seen events start and grow and grow and grow and grow until they crumble under their own weight. And I, I would love to preserve this for as long as possible. I am acutely aware that everything has a cycle, and everything will have that someday we will be, it might come to an end. But for now, for the next year, hopefully rolling into the year after that, we have something to work on and to build. And to me, that's been one of my
It feels
ambitions for
it
the last
feels
10
to
years.
me, Johnny, you're really scratching the surface. That's how it feels to me, because let alone Ireland, but Europe doesn't have really a festival of independent watchmakers. And talking, there are no doubts from a cultural and historical perspective and relevance, but talking even just merely um, from the commercial standpoint, you know exactly what's happening in the market at the moment. The demand, the thirst, the hunger for knowledge about these incredible artists is growing exponentially. So it makes it makes no sense that there's nothing in Europe at the moment. Of course, there's nothing in Ireland, because Ireland is a bit of a virgin land in that respect, and you are the one that obviously knows how relevant also Irish watchmaking past is, and the present, with some of the coolest independent watchmakers out there. You know, just to mention the McGonigal's brothers, like you said, or Stephen McDonnell as well. And there is a new brand, no, Siderius as well.
There
Uh,
is, yeah.
Absolutely, and our friend Brian was there showcasing his watches. So there are all the ingredients, all the elements, and yes, Waterford is not the most how can I say, the easiest location to reach logistically, but could that be an advantage, Johnny? Because only those that are really passionate and genuinely passionate then would come and have a look, and would come and spend some time there. And besides the fact that I'm saying logistically is not the easiest, because it's not London, it's not Milan, it's not Paris, but we're talking about a couple of hours from Dublin Airport, so it's not either impossible. But
No,
I'm
absolutely. It's all down to your sense of perspective, really, isn't it?
yeah, yeah,
It is. It's 2 hours at minimum from the airport, and but there is
a lovely drive, by the way, a lovely drive
well, you're
through the
driving down through
Irish
God's country,
countryside.
man.
Yeah,
You're driving down through
absolutely,
God's country, so of course it's going to be great.
absolutely,
But
absolutely.
even in the rain, I don't know if you on your way. Oh, you went home on the Sunday, yeah, because
Yeah.
I drove up the country on Monday, and I never seen rain like it in my life. It was nuclear. But but the thing about it is, the options for years I have searched for an opportunity to do this in and around Dublin, somewhere to be able to host something like that there, but nothing has ever really jumped out at me. And because there's there's no point in doing an event it could be anywhere in the world. It literally, you walk into a hall and it could be in any city, in any country in the world. And that's kind of been part of my feeling about it, that Ireland has a great reputation as a country for tourism and and beauty, the countryside being beautiful. It so happened that my visit to Waterford last year, to go down to visit the Museum of Time, was completely unintended uh, invitation or unexpected invitation to come and host this event. And I just looked around me and I could not believe it, because this is what I was looking for to all
So
these years.
you went to the Museum of Time the first time out of your own initiative. So they didn't
Hmm.
invite you because of what you do.
Oh, they did. We told them that we were coming down because we wanted to meet them. We wanted to do a story, and we wanted to let them know that we were coming down, and we were welcomed. We were, as you know, what the hospitality is like in Waterford.
of course.
You're immediately brought into the fold, and it was just wonderful. And Eamon obviously had been giving this a lot of consideration, and whenever we went for a coffee and a lunch, and he put this proposal to us, and I was kind of daunted because it's a huge undertaking to try and organize an event where you're bringing people and watches from across Europe into Ireland, and indeed clocks. And it didn't just work out so well with the clocks because the cost of shipping was prohibitive. We're really looking forward to welcoming Sebastian Neiske. And
And Johnny, and how many events we've seen springing in the world of watchmaking and disappearing miserably in a way, and sometimes unfortunately. We can mention Salon QP, Belmontre. We could mention an event. I don't even know if you have ever heard of Baselworld. It's big stuff to organize events and to keep the interest around the events. So I totally see
well,
what you mean.
yeah, I have a couple of ideas to keep it relevant for a little while going forward. Anyway, and again, we'll have this incredible setting. And the way I look at it is, independent watchmaking has a new and welcoming home in Waterford City Centre. And
Yeah,
oh yes, before I go on as well, because we did mention Siderius and the list of people that I wanted to thank, was
yeah.
absolutely one of the most, a person who put such an effort and so much time into it was the owner of Siderius, a gentleman called Brian Leach. Brian is a designer by trade, industrial designer, and
And
yeah,
what a designer.
such an eye for detail and an idea, uh, that unique ability to be able to take a concept, an idea, and in his case, the concept behind his watches, the Siderius watches, um, are is the some of these
I think
historic.
are we allowed to say what Brian is credited for in terms of his work on design and the work he did for Apple in back in the 90s?
By all means.
Yeah, yeah. So Brian designed the second, I think it was the second keyboard to a Mac
Okay.
basically device, and it was the first one that was actually on a slope, so that was ergonomic and it was dead cool to see, and it was on a slope, so giving the perfect comfort in terms of usability, and yeah, it is in its history books for that.
Yeah, well, that's such a. I'm going to be very honest with you. I don't know that. I'm blown away by that. But
Well, it helped that I sat with Brian at the lovely dinner. There was and I want to thank obviously the Waterford Council for organizing that lovely dinner that we had, a gala dinner that was perfect to celebrate the achievement for
amazing.
both yourself and the city of Waterford. So I was sitting next to Brian, and we had a lovely, lovely conversation, a lovely time.
He is an absolutely engaging guy. But my thanks to him was for he did so much work on the Instagram page. He created these incredible posts that I do. Sometimes whenever you get somebody working on something, you go, "Oh yeah, I'm glad to see you did that." I went in and read those posts, and I was just going, "Wow, that's fantastic." And then he proposed to me that the display units that we had ordered, which were beautiful display units, again, exhibition prints, Thank you so much indeed. A big effort required there as well. But Brian came up with the idea of doing the branding on vinyl and attaching them to the plinths, and it just transformed the whole thing. It
Yeah.
just gave it, it elevated it, and it's in the detail, and that's where you get with a designer, somebody who's got a design oriented mind. It's the detail, Pietro, and you think you have
Totally.
things covered until you see the difference that somebody like that makes. And again, so this is all part of people playing a role in making this thing work. I cannot take the credit for it, Pietro. Yes, I did the outreach, I did the emails, that, but everybody else are what made it. And as I said at the start, this is as much a people event as an event about the watches. So,
There
so
were there
speaking
were
of
some
watches,
watches. Yeah, there were some watches though as well, weren't they?
I noticed one or two. Although I couldn't believe it, Pietro. I could not. Every time I went to go and take photographs and sit talking about watches, somebody I was going, Johnny, Johnny. So this would be on a different.
Can we say that that array of watchmakers, independent watchmakers, and that array of timepieces that was present in that room in those 3 days has never been seen before anywhere else at a given time in a given place at the same, at the same time again.
With,
Here we go.
without a doubt,
Here we go.
without a doubt. I'm going to take you through this photograph, people, going from my left to right. And so you'll be familiar, I'm sure, with Vianney Halter. Behind Vianney, Stephen McGonigal. In front of Stephen, Andreas Strehler.
I
John
thought
McGonigal.
Andrea Strella looking like a heavy metal star as well, which I
Living
really
his
like.
best life, Pietro. Absolutely.
Love him.
Just, wonderful. Yeah, Andreas is looking wonderful. In front in the pink shirt is Patrick Sjogren from Sweden. Behind him, Christian Lass, a young Danish master who's. I don't know if you saw the finishing on his watch is molecularly. It's just incredible. Behind that, Bernard Lederer, one of the pioneers of contemporary independent watchmaking, one of the first members of the AHCI, and still more recently the winner of the Innovation Aiguille at the GPHG Awards for his
Absolutely.
CIC, his Central Impulse Chronometer, which is a
We had the
staggering.
pleasure and the joy to host Bernard on his way back from Ireland in London for a lovely collectors event that was held on Tuesday, and he told me the story of how his timepiece was supposed to be in the chronometry category rather than innovation category, and then the chronometric category was actually cancelled for 1 year, and then he ended up winning the innovation with his CIC. Of course, this masterpiece that you're showing here now, which was one of the top pieces exhibited there, Johnny. And
Extraordinary.
one of those with this link to the past and the history related to contemporary watchmaking, because it's directly inspired from by the work of Breguet all the way to George Daniels and the impact on the escapement. So the studies on escapement that Bernard Lederer is really fascinated with.
Absolutely, yeah, yes, and because I think, Pietro, what we decided we might do is we'll go into the technical stuff on the imposters on your Instagram live, and but definitely we'll come back to that. But I wanted just to finish off that group photo, just to let people know who is who. So directly in front of Bernard Lederer is a young guy who has really blown our minds this year, Pietro. Philippe Narbel, who has created this extraordinary work of art called Roots, and he has been amazing young talent to watch, and somebody who's also supporting a kind of a creative hub for other young talents to be able to come and find find work working for other brands who are in need of engraving or finishing or polishing or technical issues. He's creating that ecosystem as well. Then in front, in the white pullover, is Thomas Pressure. Thomas needs, again, well, does he need no introduction? Because he's a very he does not present very often. He does not exhibit very often. But man, what like we'll come back to him. We'll come back to these people in one moment. Behind that is the young guy in the blue shirt, Rune Backendorf from Denmark as well, and a prodigy of Thomas Pressures. His time is spent with working with Thomas. Behind Rune is Kevin Keller, an Irish clockmaker who has really helped to put the whole museum on its feet. He has offered his time gratis to service and maintain some of the clocks that are in the Museum of Time. And he was there with a collection of amazing, eclectic timepieces spanning the last 2 centuries at the event. Behind him is Albert Edelman, who is, along with the chap beside him, Peter Nicholas, are the two men behind, or two of the 4 founders of Zeitwinkel. Again, we'll come back and we'll talk about these for a couple of minutes. Next to that, Marc Genie, who is my introduction to independent watchmaking, into what I would call the nucleus of independent watchmaking, and the AHCI. Mark has his hand on Paul Gerber's shoulder. Paul Gerber was in Waterford. My God. So, and in front there is Brian Leach of Siderius Watches, and so that's everybody in that photograph, except I don't know who that galoot is in the front, but anyway, so
it's the skipper. That's the skipper.
Oh yeah. Oh
yeah,
man,
Johnny, it's amazing that that picture looks really, really legendary. I can see easily myself looking at that in 15, 20 years and still wondering how the hell you managed to put this together. When I think that, by now we are a little bit into independent watchmaking as for what we do. But I had never met Thomas Pressure in the flesh. I had never met Paul Gerber in the flesh. I had never seen a Paul Gerber live in the metal. So educationally, it was, and it will always be that event that brought me on some of the most iconic watchmakers' path. So thank you again, Johnny. It was really, really great.
It's been mind-blowing for me, Pietro, to do this. I was freaking out about it in the weeks running up to it. I was just thinking, how are they
is it really
this?
happening?
But it was beautiful, and as I said, the people made it. So the people on the venue. So yes, if you want to talk about any of these people just for a moment before, I know we want to keep a lid on this one, Pietro. So yeah, you were talking about Thomas Pressure, Paul Gerber.
Yeah, the thing is the fact of we have clarified that the access to the event, the venue was amazing, the atmosphere was great, but the fact was that then we saw some timepieces that were absolutely incredible. Yes, starting from the Caliber 42 by Paul Gerber with his own sorry, this was with the ETA based, but with obviously the iconic triple rotor concept that again I've heard people talking about, but never saw it in the flesh.
You don't often get to see that on a show on the internet, do you?
Absolutely. And I have to say, I tried it on the wrist, and yeah, of course, it fit the wrist really well. But I loved in particular the titanium case and how it's been worked by Paul, together with the dial. The dial is actually made by him, completely made by him, which is another very, very cool detail. for a watch that is priced, a little, I think it's little over. I don't want to say something wrong, but it's let's put it like that. Very, very interesting and clever price point to get an access to Paul Gerber. Paul Gerber, Johnny, that is one of those that you never hear talking about, but for if you are a watchmaker and you can attend a Paul Gerber seminar or watchmaking course, you are a happy man.
Absolutely. To have Paul Gerber there. Paul Gerber got to the event because I invited another guy. I invited a guy called Mark Genie. And a little story about Mark Genie is that whenever I was writing about watches for years, for a couple of years, and mostly I was writing about brands, big brands. And I would write and spend half a day or 3/4 of a day writing an article about a new watch that was being made, coming out from one of the big top brands that everybody knows. I'd finish that article, I would write an email and put a link to it and send it off to the brand. And invariably, I would get a reply that said, "Oh, thank you for your interest in our brand." Maybe 2 or 3 days later. Usually not even signed, not even best regards, Johnny, but just thank you for your interest in our brand. Now we are going back a long time here, and I know that the PR thing has evolved dramatically for online writers, and you get that a lot more accessibility. But I still felt it was a little bit cold. However, I continued because this is what I was doing. I was developing this writing platform. One day I saw a watch by a guy called Mark Genie, and it blew me away. Now this isn't the exact watch because this is a watch that came a few years later, but it's very similar aesthetically and technically, very, very similar in that there's no crown on this watch. And there is the little hand at the 3 o'clock position within the triangle. There is a hand that doesn't indicate any time setting, but it indicates which actual winding setting or date adjustment setting. And it correlates to the pusher, which is beside a rubber pusher on the side of the case at 4 o'clock. You push that, and
Which doesn't look like a pusher at all because it's completely ergonomic and it's completely merged
like
with the
cushion,
case
isn't it?
itself.
Yeah, it's like a cushion, and
Yeah.
so I had never seen anything like this. And also because there's no crown, so there's no winding. How do you wind it? Well, there's actually a rubber ring that goes around the side of the case, and it rotates, which means that, but underneath the lugs, there's actually a little tunnel for the ring to pass under. And so I obviously had never seen anything like this before. So I wrote an article about this watch, and I loved it. And I sent the article off to Mark Genie. And where previously I'm getting used to thank you for your interest in our brand kind of emails, his answer took me about half an hour to read. He could not believe that someone would take the time in 2010 to write about his watch and put it up on their blog.
Yeah.
And Mark and I became great friends. And at the time, Mark was the director of communications at AHCI. And Mark introduced me to that inner coterie of the elite of independent watchmaking. It's funny how one article can lead to what we're talking about now, about the International Festival of
Absolutely.
Time.
Absolutely.
It's funny.
And
It's funny.
it's all about the giving, which is a big element within the community of the independents as we know them, and how they interconnect with each other, with or without or the influence of the AHCI. But there is this, like you were talking before about Philippe Narbel, and how Philippe has been sorting out quite a few watchmakers with the finishing and with technical solutions that regarded the finishing in the case of Philippe Narbel, guided by that spirit of actually sharing that is very, very dominant in in the group of watchmakers, at least that we've seen exhibited in Waterford.
Absolutely. And there is this sense of community that you really witness firsthand in Waterford, because a lot of these people know each other so well, but haven't seen each other in years. And in some cases, in the likes of Thomas Prescher or Mark Genie or Paul Gerber, people haven't seen them in many, many years. This is not just over lockdown. This is maybe 5, 6, 7 years since people have seen one another again. And
How much did you like that roots from Philippe Narbel with this olive, very very subtle olive leather strap? I thought it really really fits the contemporary look. I loved it.
it's to me, it's one of the watches of the last 12 months, and it's made out of love. So it is. Some watches are made out of metal. This watch is made out of love, and because Philippe is absolutely consumed by passion for what he is doing, and a perfectionist. I have to say, are there nicer hands, hour and minute hands on any watch? I don't think so. They're just absolutely. They're so delicate and flimsy. They're like they're
Yeah, the beauty of Philip's work is really in the detail and in the aesthetic solutions that have yeah, with uncompromising all the time.
they're
Um,
they're yeah. They're like a dragonfly's wings. They're so fragile. They're those hands. They're just beautiful. And then that little panel, that imprint of or that natural forming of the silver in the center. That every one of them are unique. For a guy just making his debut, that's one hell of a way to do it. Also, we could go through one or two of the others too, and not disrespecting anybody. It was wonderful to see the new Norskin in by Patrick Sugden from
Absolutely,
GOS. Yeah, and
absolutely.
again,
We've been playing with the UV lights as well because the effect at night. I mean, obviously in the dark is yeah, it's like wow, that's really. I can see you well prepared, Johnny, as always. The effect was absolutely great. And yeah, Patrick looks really, really fulfilled in what he's doing,
doesn't he?
and getting the recognition that is deserving, of course.
And like ourselves, Pietro, he has been through the mill. It has taken time to get to get to where he's at now, and nobody knows better than you, Pietro, the hard work that goes into uh, to creating a platform and an awareness for something that is so niche as a handmade watch. And this was before people were really paying attention to what's going on. And the beauty of it is, it's still a niche because it probably wouldn't couldn't cope if it moved really into the mainstream as it is.
Of course,
The
of
demand for
course,
these watches are bursting at the seams.
of course, of course. You know, the room you put together for as extraordinary as it was could not accommodate the masses, and we you know, same as the retail high street business can't accommodate the independents because of course the production is so limited that basically the independents can't cater for the whole of the world. So it's a bit of a paradox, but it's fantastic to raise awareness and to linger on the educational side of what independent watchmaking means. But at the same time, we need to keep it a bit of a secret as well. Otherwise, we're gonna
Well,
face other issues, aren't we?
absolutely, and we're already seeing that people are ordering watches, and they are ordering watches that aren't they're not going to see until 2026. So that's okay. That's one of the extremes, but we're seeing inquiries and people coming in to put their reservations, subscriptions for watches that they're not going to see for 12 months easily.
Yeah,
And
and
yep, that's just the nature of
and
the
that, and
beast.
that's why we're here to guide also people into how, because if you consider, for example, Paul Gerber, Johnny, it's disputable whether you can have a watch at all from Paul Gerber. So yeah,
Yeah.
we are here to facilitate obviously those accesses and try to make it happen.
And where would that be, Pietro? Where would you be doing that through? Eh?
Yes, I think, yeah, I think. we have together.
On the limitededition.co.uk, who is, as I said, this is Pietro is the man, the brains behind the limitededition.co.uk. Make sure I've spelled everything correctly there because I kept doing it on the hoof. And
I'm pretty sure that whoever is watching this podcast, I think, obviously through you must have heard and seen about the limited edition. And Johnny, it's so good that you're also passing your valuable knowledge and help and support also in taking care of collectors now. So from being the editor of the limited edition, also stepping up to nurture and create those relationships that make our platform useful to some people out there, which is the most fulfilling thing that I think we have achieved.
It's wonderful. It's wonderful. There's a couple of other people I just want to mention as well before we go to the final comments here, Pietro. We'll wrap it up in the next few minutes. Zeitwinkel, Pietro.
I was really impressed. These guys very, very humbly, slowly but surely are imposing themselves as one of the, can we say, the most interesting, fully in-house manufactured makers, Swiss makers, at an incredible price positioning. So if you're looking at an in-house manufactured timepiece with a fairly classical look, but always with a contemporary twist, movements made in-house, the whole thing really. Zeitwinkel are still pricing their timepieces at lower than 10,000 Swiss francs at times, which make them a very, very valuable option. Once again, lovely human beings as well. We had a nice dinner together, discussing the ins and the outs of the world of watchmaking, and it was great to share with them.
It was absolutely amazing. And Zeitwinkel were a brand. Albert, Peter, and Monica made a superhuman effort to attend, because not everything went swimmingly, because in the week or two beforehand we had 3 people pulled out, and then I was starting to panic. God, have I enough to make an event here? And but I contacted Peter or Albert, and I just said, look, you mentioned to me in Geneva when we were at the AHCI event, under threat of death if I didn't invite him next year. And I said, look, it's an opportunity has come up. The format has changed, and we're going to do this. He was going to Finland, to the watch show in Finland, which I hear is another fantastic success. Bravo, guys. And then that was about 10 days before the Festival of Time in Waterford. And somehow they managed to ship themselves and their watches to accommodate both shows, and made a lovely contribution to the whole weekend as well, because again, as you said, Pietro, lovely, wonderful people. And I had some great laughs with those people. And there is, as I said, we're just coming towards the end. So I don't know if we lost you there. No, I thought, is that your brother? So here we go.
Can you hear me?
Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. So
I had a funny technical issue. The phone overheated. First time it happens, because it's just working. I mean, I'm not in the sunshine, nothing. I don't know. Interesting. No, anyway, I had a backup solution just in case. So
you are a wily old fox. And there's a little, as I say, as we're coming towards the end, Christian is another amazing young watchmaker who has joined us before on In the Metal. And again, thank you so much, Christian, because it was wonderful to have you in the room and to look at your beautiful masterpiece. And we were talking about you earlier, Christian, just saying about the finishing was, as I said, molecular in its attention to detail. So thank you for coming and joining us. And
so when there is when there is probably 3-4 years waiting list to have any Christian Last timepieces, when are you gonna be, having the possibility to touch it, to see it, to take
Yeah.
pictures, and to enjoy it? And the event did just that also in terms of the work of Christian Last.
And another star of the future. This is one thing too, Pietro. The future of independent watchmaking is in good hands. We were represent the pioneers of independent watchmaking were represented with Paul Gerber and Bernard Lederer and John McGonigal, Vianney Halter, guys who were working at the early part of the 2000s and before with Paul and with Bernard, and also with the new generation, Rune Backendorf, Philippe Narbel, Christian Lass, and it's just fantastic to see these young people. We also haven't mentioned Andreas Strehler. Did we tell you we had Andreas Strehler was in the room? Unbelievable. And so
And there were
there we
four
go.
four timepieces from Andreas as well, which is again, you're lucky if you can see one, in a couple of years. And we had the pleasure and the luxury to see a few of them. I think I spent 2 hours taking pictures of Andreas pieces.
He's- and you think you're knocking your mic off there, Pietro, for what's happening, but I think you've knocked your
No,
mic.
I'm here. I was going to mention the Guinness record winner, the Lune Exact that was there in the room. So 2 million years accurate moon phase, which is not obviously the piece you're showing here, but that's what I was going to mention.
Absolutely, it was incredible. It really was. And there's Rune Backendorf. Rune, pay attention. Keep an eye on your phone. I'll be getting in touch with you. We'll be needing you next week, I think, for for a little chat. So, but it was brilliant. Again, another exceptional talent and a wonderful human being. It's quite. I'm almost getting emotional here about this, Pietro, because it was an experience on a different level to any watch event that I have been in attendance at before. And as I said at the start, you could say, yeah, you're going to say that, you organize it, but it was something really
Listen,
special.
Tony, the world knows how much London needs an event like that, and the world knows, like, if there is somebody that should be doing something in London with the independence, that should be probably us. And I haven't attempted it yet, so I know it is a daunting prospect. But your way of carrying it out has been exemplar, simply exemplar, and it makes me feel that there could be opportunities for the future in other scenarios. And without taking nothing away from the Watchmakers Club event, which is a lovely event as well, that has been happening for a few years, but I don't know what's what with that one in London. But no, again, great work, Johnny, and I'm looking forward to see what could happen next year.
Absolutely. Well, listen, I want to thank you very much for doing this format with me. Usually we do the imposters, we have our conversation on Instagram Live, and but it's in the metal there was a bit of dust sitting in the corners of in the metal that needed blown out, and so I wanted to come back and let people know that we're still here. Dan is I was talking to Dan earlier on today. He's rocking and working on a new watch, and I think we might be doing
I bet he wants to be there. He wants to attend next year, so he better speed up now.
He absolutely has said that he's going to be there, so that'll be, for me, that'd be fantastic as well. So and I just got to end, Pietro, because I got a message. One of the comments was from our great friend Thomas, who we met in Geneva at the AHCI at the Watches and Wonders Week, and Thomas is going, next year we'll hopefully have some female specialists: Fiona Kruger, Eva Löwe, Rebecca Struthers. Guess what, Thomas? I asked them to be at this year, but for one reason, I asked Rebecca and I asked Eva, because I do not want this to be an all male affair. And but just for I reached out to possibly about 50 or 60 different people. And so people for different reasons weren't able to attend. I think your mic's off again, Pietro. But definitely next year we will definitely be looking at. We're not going to blow this thing up. It's going to have to. Scale is very important to me about this, and I think scale is part of the reason that it was the lovely thing that it was. We'll see how we go about it, but there would be, if we do anything different, it'll be a small difference. And here we go.
Oh, sorry, I was going to say the female contribution would be really, really cool. We were discussing this with the V&A Alter, believe it or not, at the pub, having a beer together, and how under the and also with Bernard Lederer yesterday in London, how behind the scenes female master watchmakers have been so relevant and important for what horology is today. For whatever reason, sometimes it doesn't make it quite to the headlines, and I think it's another thing where you and I, Johnny, can make a bit of a small contribution. But of course, we are big fans of Eva Loibe, Rebecca, Fiona, and so I'm sure things will happen in future.
Absolutely, and there are a lot of other women in the industry as well that are propelling that are behind the scenes and doing such amazing work. And so it's we definitely will be looking at making inviting some of those people. We did invite them next year. Fingers crossed they'll be here. Your mic's off again for saying goodbye. So
just to avoid the noises at the back, because I'm not anymore on my earpieces, but I'm following. So whenever
I see. Okay, no problem at all. Well, this is how we end up most of the evenings, and we look forward to doing it again next year. And Pietro, thank you so much for coming across, joining us, and having such a wonderful time, making it such a fantastic occasion. As I say, I'm a little bit emotional about it. I'll come to terms with this presently, but everybody, from us to you, from In the Metal to our wonderful friends, our followers, keep your eyes open. There'll be something coming up in the near future. I very much hope, and it might even be next week. If I could talk to one of these young watchmakers in Denmark who is new on the scene with his new watch. So we're not giving any more away than that, but we hopefully will be back next week. So everybody, thank you so very much indeed. And we look forward to, thank you for your support. Thank you for your comments on a wonderful festival. And to Pietro, thank you as well, sir.
Thank you, Johnny. And I'll finish like V&A Alter in the picture. Keep strong, working. Absolutely.
Okay, folks. Bye.